This is following I'd say a multi-year passion that I've had about learning how to make whiskey and actually making whiskey. Whiskey, unfortunately, you just can't do as a hobby, so if you're going to try it out, you have to do it the right way, which is to be a legal distiller. And I am a legal distiller. In fact, I'm the 7th legal distiller in the great state of Alabama. So my name is Jeff Irons. I'm originally from northern New Jersey, and I've been back in Huntsville. I was here in the mid-'80s and came back in 1996. I had made beer and I'd made wine before in the past, and quite frankly, I thought that making whiskey was actually kind of the next step in all of this. And so I just want to see, hey, what does it take? And besides, I mean, it's, making beer, making whiskey are very similar. You basically make a beer first, and that's what you distill. And so you're actually cooking flammable liquids over open flames, which is kind of exciting too. For the product to mature, that is actually in these barrels, these are 5-gallon barrels here in the distillery, they actually take between 4 to 6 months. I'm actually going to move it up to 10-gallon barrels here pretty quickly, and they take about another 20% more time. So probably, 8 months nominally, 7 months or so. I think my focus is, quite frankly, is I'm trying to make a whiskey for our community. I want this to be a Huntsville, Alabama, bourbon whiskey and bourbon mash whiskey for the folks to really enjoy locally. This is all about reaching out to the community, talking to people, and being here in Low Mill. It's all about the art of making whiskey. And that's what we're really trying to focus on, is what is the art of making whiskey and trying to explain it to people. There's a couple aspects of what I really enjoy the most about distilling. To me, it's a combination of cooking and chemistry. I really enjoy the cooking part, which is where you actually bring water to boil, and you put your corn in, your rye in, and then you see the magic of when you actually put in your malted barley, and the malted barley immediately turns all this starch to sugar. That is an incredible process to just watch it as you're plunging the malted barley up and down, to watch it turn from starchy oatmeal to like corn soup. And then the other thing that I find really exciting too is when we actually run the still and those first drops start to come off the still, and you just watch the alcohol pouring out of that. And it's just, to me, that's the most exciting parts of distilling. I get my corn, I'm making basically bourbon, and that's when bourbon is when I actually age the first time a new charred oak, which these are all new charred oak barrels. When I reuse the barrels, it's no longer bourbon whiskey, it is a whiskey made from a bourbon mash. I'm making bourbon mash whiskey and bourbon whiskey. The recipe is identical. I'm using, the main ingredient is corn. Corn is, they call it the engine for bourbon. And then I use rye. Rye adds a little spiciness to the taste. And then I use malted barley, basically to convert all the starch to sugar. I get my corn locally here from C.T. Garvin, who actually grinds it all for me into grit size. And then I actually, we don't have any rye or barley here, but I actually buy my rye and my barley through a local brewery, Straight to Ale. So I'm very thankful for Straight to Ale, and also C.T. Garvin's a local business, been in business over 80 years, and they are a key partner in my distillery here. We actually had a reception here recently, and the mayor came in and asked me the same question. He said, "From where do you get your water?" I said, it's Huntsville City water. I said, "We have beautiful water here. What I do is I actually filter my water to remove the bane of fermentation, which is iron, which we have very little iron, and chlorine. So I get rid of chlorine and iron, and we just use the limestone water that we get out of our taps. And I think it's just like all the breweries too. It's beautiful water, it works great, it makes some terrific whiskey." Well, the folks that work with me, they're all very interesting people. First of all, there's my wife, and she is actually my chief masher and co-distiller. And then there's my friend Ross, who I actually go to church with. And Ross is the gentleman who really showed me the nuances of distilling. And so between Vicky, Ross, and myself, I think we have a pretty good team that complements each other. We all get along real well. We all enjoy the process. Yeah, I guess the thing that's interesting with this whole distilling process, I think we're kind of on the leading edge. Craft distilleries are starting to blossom here. I don't really see myself necessarily as somebody who's going to try to go multi-state or even overseas. I really want to be a provider of local whiskey, and I want folks to enjoy it locally. But then again, I want them to be able to spread the word. So I'm going to count on our community to kind of get the word out there. And we'll just see where this whole thing goes. This is a living, breathing business case, and I'm very curious to see how it ends up.